My Precis is on the article The Instructor as Stagehand, Dutch Student Responses to PowerPoint by Wilm Blokovic and Ross Naif. This article starts by explaining that there appears to be a gap between what presenters of PowerPoint do and what the audience actually prefers about the design and effects. This is the only mention, though, of previous thoughts on this topic, and already raises questions since there seems to be a lack of theory and a lack of a literature review to guide the study. But the researchers do make it clear that they are trying to determine what students think about the use of PowerPoint. Particularly, they are trying to decide if students prefer a presentation that utilizes all of PowerPoint's features or if they like a more modest layout. They do recognize that they can't generalize all the results to all of students, so they do try to focus their study on just Dutch students. Therefore, their research question seems to be, what do Dutch students appreciate and dislike in PowerPoint-supported university lectures? Subject selection in the study is problematic. They determine that their population is Dutch students, and their sample is the 69 students from Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. However, there is no mention of how this university or these students are representative of Dutch students. Furthermore, the students were divided into 3 groups by disciplines, but there is no mention of what these are or why it was done. There is also a lack of confidence limits to determine the sample's proportion to the population in general. The data was collected in 3 phases. During the first phase, the student attended a lecture and filled out a questionnaire afterwards. Multiple choice questions were given on a 5-point scale of agreement, and open-ended questions asked for descriptions of their annoyances and appreciations with PowerPoint. Due to some questions that arose in the data after this first phase, one of the groups attended another lecture and filled out the same questionnaire again. This data triangulation is the only triangulation in the study and was used to therefore enforce the conclusion of the what you see is what you like effect. A third phase was conducted, which asked 8 students to fill out a second questionnaire, but this article does not mention how these answers were used past just the mention of the third phase. The data from these questionnaires was analyzed and presented in tables. The frequency of agreement for the multiple choice questions is given, but how this compares to the 5-point scale that they talked about on the questionnaire is not mentioned. In another question, the researchers asked if the students preferred PowerPoint presentations to overhead projector presentations, and only 67% responded, decreasing the validity of the answer since you need 80 to 90% responses. In regards to the open-ended questions, they grouped similar answers together. There is no mention if other raters were used in the grouping of these answers, which decreases the reliability of these results. Also, the frequency of answers seems to only ranges between 23 to 4%, and there is no explanation of the significance of these percentages or what the confidence interval is for the population. In the conclusion, they do generalize. They say that the advice to keep a slideshow sober harmonizes with often heard comments of audiences. It is an important guideline for presenters. And they go on to mention a few reservations they have about their study, but they kind of just generalize, and they don't mention, the fact that they don't have a sampling strategy, a confidence interval, or response rate. Overall, there are a few strengths of the study. The fact that it was an interesting conclusion and findings. They did perform some data triangulations with the second phase of their data collection, and they do mention that more research is needed to determine further their findings. But there are tons of weaknesses. They don't operationalize the definitions. They don't talk about how their sample is representative. There's no other triangulation with regards to the open-ended questions, and there's no interrelated reliability. And the data collection and analysis with the tables don't seem to match up correctly. So overall, I would say that this is kind of a weak study.